there's this whole thing that I hear when I talk to people who, at least for the first time, or maybe even seasoned buyers, they're like, hey, why do I need a specific type of realtor? Or I would suggest a realtor because, I'm trying to partner with the best of the best to have that great team for the client. And they're like, why do I have to work with the person that you're recommending, like Kevin? Why do I, why can't I just go interview or find somebody that, I just Google through? I mean, all they're going to do is show me homes. And I would say, well, they know this, they know that, or they're going to do correct market comps. He's like, oh, Zillow's doing market comps, like, why should I even bother going with Kevin? Like, what would you say to someone like that?
Well, I would tell you this, that, once again, best way to describe it. I honestly look at myself and our team as, for the buyers, as your real estate Sherpa. We've climbed the mountain. We've been there before. We, each climb, there's going to be, there's always something a little different that happens, but so much of it is always the same. We know what the hurdles are. We know what the pitfalls are. We know, when it comes to simply writing a contract, once again, having that relationship and the networking with the other agent, being the fact that, half the time I'm working for the seller, and half the time I work for the buyer, I so intimately understand the psychology from both sides of the fence that, a buyer really needs an agent who understands both sides of the fence. Like, how do we make this a win-win, where it's a win for the buyer and a win for the seller? Once again, navigate all the way through from not only just the writing of the contract to competing and hopefully winning that, through the whole scenario, from, the appraisals and home inspections and all those type of things. So, once again, there's no transaction that's ever exactly the same. However, 90% of it is the same on every transaction. It's that 10% that is different. And, once again, I mean, we know the path. We've been there before. If I was going to go climb Machu Picchu, I'm not going to do that on my own because I've never been there before. I'm going to get killed. I'm going to get eaten, by some animal or something. And the buyers are the same out there. I always say, Chris, this may not be the most PC analogy. So I kind of compare it to, and this is exactly what I tell buyers. Right now, you're going out and looking for a home right now. There's so few out there, and it is so competitive. It's a little bit like if you were going out trying to hunt down a grizzly bear. Now, I know we're not supposed to be hunting grizzly bears, but just kind of stick with me.
It's a metaphor.
It's a metaphor, people. Come on, we're all adults here. But if you're going out to hunt a grizzly bear, you need everything. You need to be prepared. You need to know how to hunt it. You need to know that once it's in range, how you strike. You need to have the proper proper weapons, proper everything in order to be successful. If you go out there hunting for a grizzly bear and the only thing you've got is a squirt gun, you're going to get killed. I mean, you're not going to be successful in hunting a grizzly bear. And even worse than that, you're probably going to get killed because you're just going to be annoying it. You're going to be poking that bear. And so you need to become prepared. And that means, once again, I always say defining your team before you even get out there searching. Who's going to be your real estate agent? Who's going to be that real estate Sherpa for you, who's been there before, walked the path, knows how to successfully get you to the finish line? Who's going to be that mortgage Sherpa? Are they going to be working and collaborating together? Who's going to be title? Who's going to be potentially my home inspector? Those type of things you should really know. And if interviewing is important to you, and I think that it should be, you should interview these people ahead of time to know who your team's going to be. So it's not like, oh, okay, I found the grizzly bear. Now what do I do? I mean, that's what people get on Zillow. That's what people get on Redfin. They can find the properties. They think they're so darn cute because they're, ooh, look at this. I found it on my own. First of all, I will say, this is a topic for another conversation. Not everything that is on the market you're going to find on Zillow or Redfin. There's also hidden inventory. Did a video about this one, Chris, so you might want to link that one.
Yep.
That you can find that's properties that aren't even on the market. But, you'll find 98, 99% of the properties on Zillow and on Redfin. But okay, so you find it. What's next? Most people don't think that way. Oh, I found it. What do I do now? So to me, if you're a home buyer out there, you should be defining your team early. Who's going to be my mortgage lender? Who's going to be my realtor? Are they able to work together? And then the extensions from there. Who's going to do title? Who's going to be my home inspector? Those type of things.
I think one thing that probably a lot of folks think is, I don't want to waste the realtor's time. I don't want to waste the lender's time. I'm not even sure if I really want to buy a home right now or yet. I think, piggybacking on what you're saying, it's like, you guys aren't, wasting our time. I think it's wasting our time if you weren't even qualified and you went to Kevin and said, hey, I want to look for a $500,000 home, but all you can afford is $250,000. That's where, right. It's like having the right sequence of events. I always like to, I think home buying is like, it's another result, right? It's a successful result of purchasing a home. And I think the pattern of success that I share with a lot of folks is kind of like unlocking those deadbolt locks, the turning locks that when we used to go to school and put on the lockers. I don't even know if they have that now or if it's all thumbprint. But when we used to open it, it's like the numbers, but it's the sequence that's important, right? If you don't know the right sequence, you're never going to unlock that lock. And I think the first sequence that you're bringing up is building your team of realtor and lender. That's the first thing to do. And then from there, we can start moving forward to looking at homes, finding a title company and all sorts of other things. But that's the very first step. It's not really looking at the homes. It's getting your team structure correct at the beginning.
100%. 100%. And, you didn't really ask me this question, but I'm going to give you like a little bit of a shout out here. On the first transaction we worked with, these buyers found both of us off of YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay. Which I think is fantastic. I mean, I think I honestly, it's like the people that contact me on YouTube, it's like, it almost brings a tear to my eye. It's like, they like me. They really like me.
It's the influencer syndrome.
It is because it's like you do these things to put yourself out there and it's like, gosh, does it really make a difference? Does anybody really care? Is anybody watching? Does anybody listening? Does what I put out there bring value? And when somebody raises their hand and says, hey, I saw you, I like, will you work with me? Or what do we do to take the next steps? It's phenomenal. And, this client that, I'm mentioning, they contacted me off of YouTube. They had been working with another agent, hadn't been successful with them. Agent really didn't prepare them for anything. Once again, typical agent, just sending them links. They go out and drive around and call me if you see something that looks good. I mean, no proactivity, complete 100% reactivity, passiveness, ridiculous, because they would never be successful in this market. They contact me off of YouTube. I do the presentation, I ask them if they had a mortgage lender because, obviously I work with good mortgage lenders. I don't work with just any old schlub out there. They told me they had a mortgage lender and I was like, okay, that's great. I mean, didn't really want to like you. I'm like, this guy, whatever. But from the moment that I spoke to you, and this is before, I really had even shown them a house before, started taking them out, but we're just kind of putting those building blocks in place, defining the team. They told me that they found you off of YouTube, and I'm like, okay, well, if he's been on YouTube, then he obviously has a certain level of professionalism, takes his job seriously because, we're that 1% who do that, I mean, not very many, and you don't have to be a great agent. You don't have to be a great agent, to be on YouTube or whatever. But when you see people who, are putting out good content and everything on a regular basis, you're like, okay, that's obviously a certain level of professionalism out there. I mean, you just have to like that, you have to admire that somebody's putting themselves out there, giving content away for free, And so, I contacted you. We spoke on the weekend. I never forget it. And I just said, hey, Chris, I'm working with these clients here. My understanding is you are too. Yep, Kevin, nice meeting you. Thanks for the call. And we talked about it and we kind of collaborated right over the phone. And I said, this is what I need. This is what I expect. I want to make sure you can deliver. I expect, I'm not a jerk. I'm not going to call you and text you and bug you in the middle of the night just to bug you. But you know what? I need to know that if these guys find a property and I need a pre-approval letter at 8 p.m. on a Thursday, that you're at least going to be responsive to me and you can at least have something to me by the next morning at best, preferably sooner than that. I also need to know that you're willing to pick up the phone, make a phone call to that other agent who's representing the seller to once again be that 1-2 punch between me and you, advocating for the buyer, making sure our story lines up together, that it's not like I'm saying one thing and you're saying something completely different, to make sure that our case is rock solid. That's advocating for our, your customer, my client there. And so it became, it only took me 10 minutes on the phone to realize that you had that level of professionalism that they needed to be successful. And at that point, it's like, I don't need them going anywhere else. If they had a mortgage lender who was at a credit union, like, I can't return calls after 4 p.m. I'm going to tell the buyers once again, hey, your choice, you can use them, but I'm going to tell you, you're going to lose some houses. Are you prepared to lose some houses? I mean, because if you are, then that's okay. Actually, it's not okay, because it's not okay for me. It's not okay for me to be putting my time in when you're working with somebody who's completely inferior on the other end. So, that's kind of how you and I met and everything. And, that transaction was super smooth. I mean, I think we closed it in 2 weeks or whatever, no problems whatsoever. And so, that's I became a big believer in that.
Me too. I mean, I was like, whoa, I just met a YouTube star that called me. I was so excited.
Yeah, huge.